Hey, hello, welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL single lineup sim show. This is the strategy show. And this is the sim strategy show too. In this case, we're hand building some lineups. We're going to have some fun with this one because we've got projections updated for the first time of the week. Of course, they will become better and massaged a bit as the week goes on. That is just the case, right? Like you have injury news, you have all of this stuff. We're getting the first run out so we can see kind of what lineups look like early on, what sims out well, what the best spots are to get to on a slate like this. And I won't speak for Greg, but I will present Greg with an early idea. And that, Greg, is we could be looking at a slate with 3 backup quarterbacks, and we are in week 3 of the regular season.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time there were this many injuries early on in the season. Like some of it too, it's not like Jaden Daniels hasn't been confirmed ruled out, but I bet the game as if he is not going to play. And I think that's kind of the general consensus. That's where the line movement has gone as well. But yeah, we've got an abnormal amount of quarterbacks that are already injured this early in the season.
And now you've got several that are at a minimum salary price point. Granted, I don't think we're going to be paying $5,500 for Jake Browning against the Brian Flores defense, but yeah, there's going to be something there. So we're glad to have you guys with us. Fun show to do every week, and I'm glad you could join. If you don't mind, take a single second this fine morning, atone for your sins. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. One thing that's always fun to read from you guys is, you know, if you're watching after the fact, let me know in chat right now as well. But are there specific spots here that you're building early on? Are there specific builds that you're getting to? Be it chalky ones, something a little bit different? Let us know down below. And Greg, the one thing Ben and I talked about at length yesterday on the First Look show was I think there may be a real opportunity on a slate like this to still get to some of the chalky plays, but get away from that chalky build. And I know that sounds just like random platitudes, right? But what I'm saying is there are going to be some super chalky players in good spots, and people are going to stack them or unstack them as single plays. There might just be ways to get them, but still have the total sum of ownership on your lineup looking, or even the build in general, just looking different and put you in a pretty good spot. So I want to try some of that with you today.
Sure. And then another thing, too, that I think is pretty important to keep in mind is some of the biases of the public and how DFS is not always the same as real life. So, for instance, you and I liked the Dolphins as a stack last week. Anytime I reference the Dolphins anywhere, people were more or less like, you're an idiot. The Dolphins are terrible. And guess what? They kind of looked like dog shit last week, but they were great for DFS purposes, where you had HN at a solid game, Hill at a solid game, 2 had a great DFS game. So like across
Waddle had a decent game too. He scored and he had a good game.
Yeah. So like all of the core players for the Dolphins were really good for DFS, and their ownership was really low, even though this has always been a good DFS team in the past with all of the same players, just because there was this idea of that, well, the Dolphins suck. That may be true, but for DFS, it doesn't always matter. It's kind of different situations. So there's definitely a part of it too, where I'm going to be monitoring as we get closer to the week. What are some of the builds that I think look good from a points per dollar sense that people tell me I'm an idiot for liking? And there's probably a good reason to think that that's going to be an under-owned spot.
That's a great point. Yeah. Here's another good one. And I'm certainly not calling you out, Zern, here, but it is a good point to bring up. Zern said, you mentioned Judy yesterday. I played him the first 2 weeks. Not sure I can do it again. Look, it doesn't mean the third week is going to be when he pops off. But oftentimes when everyone has jumped off of a player, if they're still getting usage, right, and they still are on a pass-first team that likely plays from behind, that may be the time to play them. So, food for thought, something to keep in mind. We'll get into all of that today. Before we do, though, guys, if you haven't tried the tools out, the same tools, right, that we saw $3 million wins with last year, all of whom rocked the Stokastic avatar, a $200K win in week 1. Going into week 2 at the Thursday slate, we had a $59K winner. And all of these this is a tiny snippet of what we had last year, but we figured we'd add in these big millies and all of the others. But aside from that, just some huge wins across the board, already this season and last season. There you go, the 200K from our friend Steve. $11,000 using the $1 promo in week 1. If you've been thinking about using the tools and you're on the fence, 25% off any NFL monthly or weekly package. The codes are the codes auto-loaded into these links, Greg? They are, right?
Yeah. It's all loaded into links. I built them out right before the show started. I tested all of them, make sure that they work. So if you guys, any package you want to sign up for, click on the link below. You're going to see like whatever, if you want to sign up for max weekly, max monthly, core weekly, core, whichever package it is, weekly or monthly you want to sign up for, click on the link down below. It'll bring you to the page and the promo code's already added in.
Yeah, dude, 25% off any monthly or weekly package. If you're new and you want to check these tools out, Strategy 25 is the code that will be auto loaded on any of these links. Tap the description if you're on your phone, click it if you're on your computer. Do that however you want to play it. Or honestly, you can just go to our website and whatever you want. Just you have to use Strategy 25 at checkout. One way or another, the link is the easiest, but plenty of ways to do it. There you go. There you go. So I'll mention it later on in the show, but I figured some of you guys may be interested in that one. What's the overlay here? Is this an epic show?
Yep. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
Just wanted to get back to the right one. All right. So I told Ben yesterday, dude, I want to, Brian, there you go. It's actually a pretty valid point. Don't do weekly because you're going to want to keep it. Save the money and get the monthly. I agree, but I let people make the decisions they want just because it may be a financial thing. And if that's the case, yeah, but the bigger savings clearly on the monthly. Anyway, 25% off with all those links down there. I said to Ben yesterday, dude, that the ownership is going to massively influence how I play this slate in a big way. But if Caleb Williams, like what's Caleb Williams' ownership right now?
Right about 8%.
If that holds, and what's Odunze and DJ Moore?
Let's see. We've got Odunze at 12.5% and DJ Moore at 8%. And I do think that there is leverage to be had. I'm just kind of like making an educated guess ahead of Sunday. Because of where the fantasy points were scored last week, and he was in all of the winning lineups, I think Odunze is going to be quite a bit more popular than DJ Moore. And I think that means there's going to be leverage on Moore because these two guys are nearly identical in price, $5,300 versus $5,400. DJ Moore, $100 more expensive. But Odunze is coming off the really big game. And coming into the year, all of us would have thought DJ Moore is going to be the number one wide receiver for Chicago this season. I still think that is going to be the case going forward. And I don't think that is how the field is going to play it this weekend because of what the results were last weekend.
I like him as leverage quite a bit this week as well. I also think, I think Rome Odunze could just be the number one on this team. DJ Moore's time there has been very odd with Caleb Williams, right? Like last year, the guy was just always grumpy. He was always like, there was always something wrong. And I get it. The team was abysmal. This year, starting 0-2, I don't know if his head is there. I hate to be that guy, but sometimes it feels that way. I like the double stack, but I also think these guys are going to be more popular than we currently have ownership at. I would love to start off with a stack though there and see how it works. I have not run the Sims, so I'm not going to cheat. I'd love to know what a stack looks like there, preferably with like a Pickens or CeeDee Lamb run back. I would even be willing to go with a full game stack here. It's a 50-point total. Jalen Johnson is out. Their star cornerback is out. Deron Bland for the Dallas side. Jerry Jones said he might be back, but it seems like that is a big if and more unlikely than anything else. They signed Jadeveon Clowney, but who really cares at this point? So an interesting game stack is one spot that I'd like to check out here too, Greg, if you want to start that one up.
Let's go ahead. Oh, by the way, also, I'm sending a message to I don't know how we should really approach this in our data right now, but we do have Jaden Daniels in at the moment. He hasn't officially been ruled out. And I know some of it's just kind of been coach speak and reporter stuff. So I am sending a message right now that I think we should take Jaden Daniels out of our projections. But just want to let people know that right now he has not officially been ruled out. And the way that we have it set up right now is that he is in. So that's impacting some of the commander stuff. So we should probably look past the Commanders-Raiders game for the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right. Man, what a terrible game from Geno, though. Brian said we're looking at 400% ownership, LOL. Yeah, we might be. But again, Brian, that's what I'm saying. Why don't we see if there's ways to potentially take, a couple chalky core pieces and just make it a little bit different? Maybe the answer is not playing CeeDee Lamb and only playing Pickens as your run back, or like Pickens and Ferguson without CeeDee Lamb. I don't love the idea of it, but it could work.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that could possibly work. I don't know. There might be other ways to do it. Or Javonte Williams, there's ways here. There's a lot of viable candidates. You could stack DeAndre Swift with Caleb Williams if you wanted to get weird and go like DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I've got some of these players pulled. I just isolated this game here, but yeah, you see Caleb. Also, I mean, this Cowboys. I'm not breaking news to anybody. If Russell Wilson's thrown for nearly 500 yards against you in 2025, there's no way you have a good secondary. It's not possible.
No, I mean, missing Deron Bland is big, but I don't think he's going to play. I think he's going to miss another week. So even if he did come back, Wilson still threw for 450 yards. Right? So, yeah, I'm with you here. I like Caleb Williams. I know it's been gross. I think there's nuance on this Bears team. It's still a new head coach. It's still a new there's still kinks to work out. They're 0-2. It's been embarrassingly bad, but 2 weeks does not a season make. I'm willing to take some shots there. I also am with you. I think this Dallas defense is bad. So let's go, Greg. Let's plug Caleb Williams in with. So what's Rome projected at? And what's Swift? Let's see. Where are we at here on?
Yeah, so we've got Dunze at 14.45 fantasy points and 12.6% ownership. DJ Moore at 14.15 fantasy points and 7.2% ownership. And you asked about Swift. We have him for 16 fantasy points and 12% ownership. Javonte Williams on the other side of the game, also 16 fantasy points, but 6% ownership.
I mean, what if we tried a Swift pairing with Caleb and then one of the receivers?
We could do that.
Instead of just going with the basic 2-court wide receiver build, because the other thing that's going to make this stack chalky is right now, Loughlin is not getting any work, and Cole Kmet is like a 2 to 3 target per game guy, right? And he's not even that cheap. So nobody's going to want to play that. And I'm not recommending that you do. I'm just saying, doesn't it feel like everyone's just going to get funneled into the Caleb double stack with Moore and Odunze? So we try to be a little bit different here.
Yeah, I plugged in Caleb Williams with Swift and DJ Moore. I think that is totally viable. And I mean, we saw this. By the way, I also want to shout out Avi in the chat because he's saying that he had Wilson, Neighbors, and Robinson stack last week. Yeah, I brought this up on Monday. I had 450 lineups across FanDuel, DraftKings, and Owners Box. I had one Russell Wilson double stack with Neighbors and Robinson on DraftKings, and that paid for 449 mid lineups because I had one good Giant stack that came towards, and that's what it takes sometimes. Just you have one good lineup that breaks out, and it makes up for the entire weekend. So, yeah, happy to see that you got on one of those lineups as well, Avi, and hopefully, because I think I'm going to be on the Bears this weekend. Hopefully that we see more of the same success against the Cowboys defense.
Yeah, you love to see it. I mentioned Sunday I was taking a big stand on Neighbors, just trying to get heavily overweight. Didn't make a difference because I didn't have the double stacks. But what's the difference in projection with Moore and Odunze?
Yeah, they're very similar. We've got Odunze projected for 0.3 of a fantasy point more. Okay.
Another thing with DJ Moore is that while Rome Odunze has definitely been targeted more often than DJ has, Moore's at least getting some opportunities out of the backfield. So I guess we could look at this as bad correlation, but I don't really think it's all that bad if you're just talking about 1 or 2 plays or 3 plays maybe where Moore gets a couple opportunities to run the football.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the main reason they're doing it, it's not even to take away from DeAndre Swift as much as they don't have another running back they trust.
Yeah.
And they're kind of just using more as the backup running back. Like Swift still gets work in the passing game. He had 5 targets in week 2. He had other way around. 3 targets in week 2. He had 5 targets in week 1. So we're probably expecting somewhere around 3 to 5 targets per week from DeAndre Swift. What's happening with this Bears offense is it's a very condensed group of guys who get attempts to touch the ball, especially because, like you mentioned, there was an expectation that Loveland was going to be a fantasy relevant guy this year at tight end. And that just hasn't been the case so far. It's really Adunzi, DJ Moore, Swift, and then to a very lesser extent, Olamide Zaccheaus, who gets some touches. If the Bears put up a big game, we know where the production and the touchdowns are coming from.
Do you want to plug? I think our build is different enough now where we should just go with CeeDee Lamb here.
We can do that.
And you know what? I'm fine double running this back. Genuinely don't mind going full out game stack in a spot like this. Pickens or Ferguson is perfectly fine with me.
Okay. But the thing that's been really annoying about having any teams with Pickens so far this year is he's been like sneaky productive because it's not leading to fantasy points. I don't know the exact number, but just like off of what I've seen, I think he's drawn 5 or 6 pass interferences.
I think it's 4, but it's still, maybe it is 5 or 6. Whatever it is, it's a ton of PIs and downfield as well. Against the Eagles, he drew 2 of them. I don't know how many he drew last week against the Giants, but yeah, no, I mean, Pickens, if you counted targets for PI, which I think you should, like they should be, and there are some sites out there that show them. Yeah, I like Pickens anytime you can play him. I'm also a big Pickens truther here.
I put in Ferguson just because we already have 2 wide receivers in the lineup, but yeah, either of them are fine.
Do you want to run this without randomness and then with randomness?
Sure, we could do that. I'll lock these guys in. And I'll run it without any randomness and just see what we get to as the optimal players around these guys. Let's see. Christian McCaffrey. We got JSN. We got Tyler Warren. So a double tight end lineup. And then the Jets defense, just because they're $2,200. They're super cheap. So this is what it ended up being. Let's see what happens when we run the sim. Also, JSN, way underpriced for this matchup and what his role has been so far this year. $6,500 against the Saints. He's going to be super popular. He was fairly popular last week and had a good game. I really like him this week against the Saints. And yeah, 81.1% sim ROI is what we got to here.
Okay. Yeah, JSN has a 42% target share through the first 2 games. So it's hard not to love him in this spot. It's basically him. Cooper Kupp did get 9 targets last game, which is nice to see. But in this run game, this could be a sneaky spot for Kenneth Walker too. I hope nobody plays Kenneth Walker this week because they're worried about Charbonnet and Walker just goes nuclear. I might take a stand on that spot, honestly. Can we run this at like 15% or something and just see what we get?
Yeah. Also, listen to this. George Pickens has drawn 79 yards of defensive pass interference penalties so far this year. The second most any wide receiver has drawn is 51 yards. So he's got nearly, more than 50% more yards drawn on penalty calls than any other pass catcher in the league.
Crazy.
All right, so filling it in, we ended up getting, it was the Packers defense with Tyler Warren, Keenan Allen. I also think Keenan Allen's going to end up being very popular this week. He's right now projected for 14.7% ownership. That's going to be higher. I feel pretty confident in that. He's going to be, that's already some ownership. It's going to be more than that because Keenan Allen is playing a massive role in the Chargers offense, and he's simply not priced for it at all. And yeah, it's a broken price tag on him at $4,700, and then still McCaffrey as well.
You think you think against Denver?
Yeah, I do think so.
He is too cheap.
Keep in mind, too, Patrick Surtain got hurt last week.
He's not on the injury report, though.
Is he not on the injury report?
No. He's fine. He came back.
35.1% sim ROI. But even with that said, Keenan Allen, he's played so well to open the season I think you can make a case that really in any matchup, he should be like a 6K plus wide receiver. I think the point of leverage here would potentially be Ladd McConkey. I haven't looked too close at what the salary difference is between them, but I don't know if you've looked at the prop market. Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey, they have the same props now.
Yeah, no, I mean it's very obvious at this point that those guys are pretty similar. The leverage to me would be Ladd because you've seen Ladd in the slot 62% of the time so far. Don't get me wrong. They have good coverage, like slot corners too for Denver are good. They got a lot, but Keenan's like 50% of the time in the slot. Yeah, I can see it. It's an interesting spot, but I also think there's a lot of other cheap options. Like one guy I'm surprised. Do we still have Aaron Jones in? My assumption is we do, because I would just think Jordan Mason would be a massive, massive popular play here and one that I would actually want to get to quite a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Let's see what we ended up projecting on the initial run for the Vikings backfield. But Jordan Mason at first glance on the slate is, to me, the best overall value option at running back.
It's the second one. All the way to the left. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, I was having a senior moment not being able to find it. No, we've got Jordan Mason for 17 fantasy points. We've got Aaron Jones basically zeroed out here with 0% ownership. Yeah, we've got Jordan Mason 28% owned and 17 fantasy point projection.
So I wonder if we just ran an optimal without anything and took that $5,600 DeAndre Swift out of there, if Mason would be in the lineup.
Probably. Let's see. If we put this on 0% randomness and just complete the lineup. Yeah, Jordan Mason's in it. It ends up being so this is just based on nothing, but this is the best lineup you could possibly build just with fantasy point projections that we have on the site. It ends up being Carson Wentz, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, Puka Nacua, JSN, Devontae Adams, Tyler Warren. Keenan Allen is in that lineup, and then the Steelers defense. This makes sense to me. If I was just eyeballing the salaries and trying to figure out who would end up being the best points per dollar lineup, like Jordan Mason, Christian McCaffrey, Keenan Allen, Tyler Warren, probably Carson Wentz, just because Carson Wentz is so cheap. These are guys who I blindly would end up with in that lineup.
I'm shocked that Nacua and Adams though are pulling that much. I one of the reasons is that these guys are combining for an insane target share. You're talking like 60+% of Stafford's passes. Tough matchups though. I mean, really a difficult spot there. Not only for them, but for Matthew Stafford. They're going to bring pressure. They just brought Zadarius Smith in, who immediately contributed. Like, they've got a bunch of young guys now, Jahad Campbell, Makuba, and then, of course, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Adoree Jackson's been the problem, but aside from that, this defense is good, man. They are good. So, all right, the double wide receiver, no quarterback stack against Philly, that'll be unique. That'll definitely be unique.
Yeah, and keep in mind here that this isn't a lineup that we're suggesting to play or anything like that. It's just based on our projections. This is what projects the best just from fantasy points.
I'm going to run a poll for you guys in chat. I would love to get your thoughts on this, and then I'll let you know what my vote was as well. But is there another type of build you want to do?
By the way, I assumed you were asking chat, not to.
No, that was you. That was you. So
to me. Okay, I thought that was what you were putting in the poll. So for myself, let's see, what's a good buy low team? Actually, maybe not buy low, but something. Here's something I'm just kind of interested to see what the builds look like. Bryce Young looked god awful in week 1. He looked terrible for almost the entirety of week 2. And then came alive at the end of the game and finished with a really good fantasy game. I assume he isn't. Yeah, he is projected for 1% ownership. Matchup against the Falcons. What's the total for this game? All right, Falcons, Panthers. All right, fairly low, 43.5. Kind of like middle of the road, though. It's not like crazy low. Almost every game this weekend has a 43 or 44 or 45 point total. But I still don't know what to make of Bryce Young and the Panthers offense, but I was a little bit encouraged by how they finished the game against the Cardinals.
I guess it comes down to the Cardinals are playing just like super soft defense, probably rushing one. But no, like they definitely took their foot off the gas. I don't know, man. He threw 55 times in that game. 55 times. I'm willing to run a Bryce stack because I think, McMillan makes for a good stack piece. Chuba Hubbard can always go in there. I'm willing to do it. I'm just not confident in it, but that's okay. You don't need to be. Nobody would have been confident in Russell Wilson last week either. But I'll tell you this much, something for you guys to keep in mind. Atlanta went out and spent big draft capital on an edge rusher, right? In this draft. They went out and made some acquisitions, but they got some rookies on the line. This has been one of the worst pass rushes in recent years, right? The secondary, the names aren't even that bad, but you can't hold up when the quarterback has time to throw. They sacked J.J. McCarthy 6 times last week, and it looks like they may actually have a semi-formidable pass rush now. If that is the case, then this Atlanta defense might actually be good this year. Which is, I'm not trying to overstate it. I don't want to make any like bold proclamation this early in the year, but that is something I'm keeping an eye on, Greg.
Yeah, one thing I will add about last week, I know there's this conspiracy. I love myself some dumb football conspiracies, and the popular theory online is that JJ McCarthy isn't actually hurt and that they are just giving him a few weeks off. They were taping his ankle during the game. Like they weren't playing the bit that far ahead where they're just like, oh, he looks bad. Let's pretend to wrap up his ankle on the sideline so that we can make it seem like we have to sit him next week. It could be the case that Atlanta has a good front seven. It could also be that JJ McCarthy was just hurt last week and it was presenting issues for him. And it is also maybe a combination of the two. But anyway, at sub 1% ownership, I'm willing to take a chance on Bryce Young to Ted McMillan as a stack.
I'm fine with it too. Jatavian Sanders is my guy. 9 targets last week, but that's only 16% target share because Bryce Young threw 55 times. But I'm cool with it. Honestly, the way I'd want to play this is probably a Bryce double with a Bijan run back.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson definitely makes the most sense as a run back because let's get a situation like last week, for example, where the Panthers are just kind of getting blown out and they have to play from behind. And then you got a ton of garbage time stats from Bryce Young. And that kind of scenario for this week, Bijan Robinson's probably rushing for over 100 yards. Tyler Algier is probably also rushing for like 60 yards and a touchdown. But yeah, Bryce Young, Bijan Robinson's a run back, get to Ted McMillan. And then Tet is very clearly the number one stacking partner to have with Bryce Young. And then I think you can make a case for either Hunter Renfrow or Sanders as the other player to complete out the double stack. Renfrow also had a pretty solid game last week, but I agree with you and I prefer Sanders.
Actually, hold on. How much is Renfrow?
Renfrow is 3,700 and Sanders is 3,300. I think they're pretty comparable.
So let's go Renfrow, and I'm going to tell you why. This might surprise you guys. Renfrow, and it's early, it doesn't, whatever. He has 7 end zone targets, Greg. 7 end zone targets. Not red zone targets, end zone targets. I'm sorry, that's wrong. Red zone targets. He has 7 red zone targets and 3 end zone targets, but he is second in the league behind only St. Brown with 7 targets in the red zone, 3 end zone targets, which is actually a lot. The only guys ahead of him are Devontae Adams, George Pickens with 5, Malik Neighbors with 4. I mean, I think if we're looking at this, you say, you know what, let's take a shot on some touchdown equity or some opportunities there with a $3,700 Renfrow.
Yeah, I don't hate that. And then the other thing too is, I mean, we thought Xavier, not we, but in general, there was, I think for good reason, that there was a thought that Xavier Legette was going to end up playing a bigger role this year. He was a top draft pick last year. Then you also had Jalen Coker was hurt to start the year. But then they signed Renfrow, and Renfrow so quickly is getting more targets than Xavier Legette. Like Hunter Renfrow, he had to sit out a year of playing football professionally because he had ulcerative colitis, and just right away he's able to step into a new team and just jumps Xavier Legette in the pecking order as far as targets are concerned from Bryce Young. So
yeah, right. Legette's bad, dude. He's just not good.
Yeah, I think
get off the field, right?
Yeah, that's reasonable to think that Xavier Legette is just not going to be an NFL player. I do still think that Jalen Coker takes Renfro's role when Jalen Coker gets back, but who the hell knows? Maybe Hunter Renfrow plays so well in the coming weeks that even when Coker comes back, it's just like Renfro's our primary slot guy.
It feels like it with the amount of targets he's seeing. It seems like it to me. I think you'd be hard pressed to kind of have anyone just come right back into the mix with how he's played, at least early on, you know. And again, when you have that much passing volume, well, eventually something has to happen. But I don't want to ignore the fact that Renfrow has not actually been good, right? He hasn't been good from a production standpoint because touchdowns are insanely volatile, right? Like, Greg, if you took the touchdowns away, there's 2 touchdowns, you're talking about a 3 fantasy point game, 2 receptions on 6 targets for 11 yards in week 1. And then you'd be looking at, if you took the touchdowns away but kept the receptions, 7 for 48. So still that's, under 12.
He is 15 targets for 60 yards this year, so it's under 4 yards per target that he's getting. But at the same time, too, it's kind of hard to know how much of that is because of how shitty Bryce Young played for like 6.5 quarters of football this year. But yeah, Hunter Renfrow, $3,700 anyway. For the purpose of this lineup, I think he's pretty reasonable. Is there anybody else who you want to put into this lineup, or do we want to just use the optimizer to complete it?
Well, I ran a poll, and I want to know what the chat thinks here, because I had a very specific idea of who I thought would win this poll, and I wanted to try and gauge ownership here, because I think as we get closer and we continue to refine these projections, for those of you in podcast form, or maybe you're doing something around the house or you're working and you don't have the screen up, I'll tell you what the poll was. It was play 1 top tier running back in week 3, right? See, I got you guys. I know you out there. Some of you aren't watching the screen, and that's okay. I had Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, and Jonathan Taylor, Greg. They're all $1,000 separated. Actually, Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor bookend the high and low end of that. But 8,200 on McCaffrey, 79 on Bijan, 78 on Saquon, who murdered the Rams last year. And then Jonathan Taylor against Tennessee, who's coming off a monster game. I felt pretty confident. I feel pretty confident that the field is really going to like Bijan this week against Carolina, and that you're going to end up seeing ownership flip between him and Christian McCaffrey. And if this early poll is any indication, can you see it on the screen? 58% Bijan, 58% of the votes, only 45 votes right now. If you guys haven't voted, get one in, takes a second. 58% Bijan, 7% McCaffrey, 22 Taylor, 13 Barkley. I think Bijan's going to be very chalky this week.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Is there a way? I assume the answer is no, because I'm looking for it. Can you see the poll through StreamYard?
No, not through StreamYard. I have I actually have the stream pulled up separately so I can do this. But yeah, Bijan's going to be, I don't think he's going to be 40%, Chris, not on a day where you have Christian McCaffrey and a lot of other guys. However, I do think Bijan will be very popular.
I do think so too. Not in the context of this lineup, though. Like, he'll be popular.
No.
The other players in this lineup won't be necessarily. But all right, let's see what happens if we just complete the lineup around these 4. Jordan Mason's in the lineup, Tyler Warren, Christian McCaffrey, Steelers defense. All right, so we got a lot of the chalk, but at the same time, too, we did it in a way that has, Bryce Young at quarterback. let's see how this lineup sims out. Solid, not great, but solid.
Yeah, I mean, they're not always going to sim out great. It's a lot of it's just because of this stack. It's not a highly projected stack. That's all. Are we surprised by that though? I don't think so. Brian, you don't think Bijan can hit 30% in tournaments? I think you could flirt with 30. I think you could absolutely flirt with 30% this year or this week. I don't know.
What do his props look like compared to McCaffrey?
Let me pull it up. The only reason I'd say slightly below 30 is because Mason's going to be very popular. I can't imagine if Jones is in fact out. Mason has to be popular. McCaffrey will still get ownership. There are a lot of running backs. There are a lot of running backs, so 30 may be a little bit high. Let's see. Bijan 111.5.
Okay.
Where's McCaffrey? There may not be one for him yet because of all of the injuries in San Francisco. That's probably the case. Yeah, we don't have one yet.
I'll check. Just because it's peer-to-peer, maybe Epic has something up. Let's see.
Yeah, check Epic. Put me in the game. Coach Chris says, Mason is an easy fade for me. Yeah, man, I don't know. That's a tough one. That Cincinnati defense is not great. I don't know. I know for a fact they're not particularly good, but who else? Who else are they going to go to here? They just brought Cam Akers back. You know, Cam Akers.
Yeah, Mason's going to, and also that Bengals defense has been not great for a minute now, and now you've also got like I know it's a super banged up game because you got Carson Wentz at quarterback on one side, you got Browning as the quarterback on the other side, but this is a pretty favorable matchup for Mason, and even if Cam Akers plays Mason's already kind of playing a decent amount even when Aaron Jones was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so for comparison, Bijan Robinson is an 84.5 rushing yard line on Epic. That is compared to 70.5 for McCaffrey. But then McCaffrey has a 37.5 receiving line, and that is compared to 21.5 for Bijan Robinson. So McCaffrey's yards plus receptions slightly higher.
Okay. Yep. And he's slightly higher priced. So pretty much where they should be. But yeah, Mason is $5,400. So I just assume he's going to pop up a lot. Also, you mentioned Epic. For those of you guys unaware, I know some of you are aware. I've already got a bunch of you saying that you signed up over there. Awesome platform, peer-to-peer. If you think you are sharp enough to go in and win these peer-to-peer games, this is the way to do it, man, because there's a lot of people that are hopping over to this site too that are posting their picks that may not be the sharpest in the world. And then you can come in with the fade 'em feature and the fade 'em, like see the pick 'em, fade 'em on you can fade them. You can go in and fade their plays. Is there anything better than that? Instead of trying to bang the unders on a sports book, which is still against the books, right? And obviously there's still juice. All of these lines are juiced and they're still favorable for the books. At least they believe they are. This is all peer-to-peer. Whether it's the pick 'em, fade 'em, whether it's the tournaments and the 50-50s, you're getting the 100% match bonus up to $50 if you sign up using the code ODDS1. We threw a link in the description, but downloading the app, use ODDS1 when you sign up and register. Get that deposit up to $50. And I can't stress enough, it's not just the peer-to-peer factor that means you won't get limited, which you can't. Some of you aren't worried about that. No big deal. What about the fact, though, that the payouts are going to be better when it's not against the house? If you've ever actually taken a moment to dig in, right, and understand what these other pick'em sites, generally speaking, most of these other pick'em sites, what the payouts look like relative to something that is truly peer-to-peer, you would be shocked. You'd be shocked because they know that most people, these other pick'em DFS sites, they know most people have no idea what the payout should be on a 4-pick play or on a 5 or a 6 or a 2 or a 3-pick play. They have no true concept of what those odds are. These are all fixed odds. So we know what the payouts are and what they should be. And the payouts are way better over on Epic as well. So just a ton of reasons to get in on that. Plus 38 states and the District of Columbia, which means in Pennsylvania, this guy can actually play it. Check it out.
Yeah. And then once again, if you guys go follow Matt Downs, see Matt Downs over on Twitter, C as in C, the letter, not C as in SEE or SEA. Go follow him on Twitter as well, because you'll see from there that this is somebody who's a better himself. He's a pick'em player, all of that. So this is somebody who's actually built a product that is for people who are also looking to use kind of similar products. The same reason why Loughy and I were talking about this before the show. Stuff like the Sims, the single lineup Sims, it's the same sort of idea. These are tools built by DFS players for DFS players. And he's kind of doing the same thing. He's like, as somebody who is in the betting space, this is a product that he's putting out that he would want to be able to use.
Yep. So check it out. And one more thing. I told you guys I'd mention it later. If you jumped in late, if you wanted to check these tools out, the single lineup Sims, the Sims tool, I think sometimes people forget, Greg, that like we have a million different tools, ownership, player projections, the top stack tool, the boom bust tool, all of that. Single lineup Sims, late swap tool, where you literally just plug all your lineups in and it'll optimize them based on swaps that are necessary. It's still valuable at times for the NFL. Post contest Sims, and just seeing the 3 millis we had last year, which is really tough to do. Rocking the tools, the 200,000 win already, the 11,000 win on a $1 promo. I could go on and on about the changes that these tools have made for a ton of people. 25% off any weekly or monthly NFL package. Use code STRATEGY25, or here's the easiest way to do it. Forget about the code. Look in the description. Greg put the links in there. There's 2 monthly subscription options, which one is core, one is max. Then there's the weekly, one's core, one's max. The only difference is with max, you can generate more contest for the Sims, right? If you're playing larger field stuff. Click that. It'll auto load the promo into it for you. And you just check out that way. 25% straight off the top of your first month. So great way to take advantage of these tools. We're still very early in the season. Whether it's a week or a month, we got you here. Strategy 25. Links down there. We'll auto load it straight in. All right. I have an idea. I would like to build something interesting here. All right. Let me know if you're ready for this one. And also, where's the poll at? Bijan's still 53% with 100 votes. Amazing. 54%, Greg. What do you make of that?
I make of it that the people in chat like Bijan Robinson.
What I'm saying is, how much do you think this reflects the field? Clearly, I'm not saying 54%. But how much do you think it reflects the field when I'm asking these guys, McCaffrey, Bijan, Barkley, and Jonathan Taylor, and it's 50%, 54% right now coming in on Bijan?
So what I think it means at the very least for now is that the gap between Bijan Robinson and Christian McCaffrey isn't going to be as wide as we're projecting it right now. We currently have Bijan Robinson projected for 16% ownership and Christian McCaffrey for 36%. And it's not going to be that big of a gap, depending, what ends up happening as we get closer to Sunday. But I don't think that Bijan Robinson is going to have half the ownership of McCaffrey. I think that's the most reasonable takeaway.
I'm with you. Do you think an Atlanta stack without Bijan is dumb or the super mega mind genius play, as Ben would say?
No, it's totally reasonable. If you look at Drake London's targets ever since Michael Penix became quarterback, it's absurd numbers. Michael Penix loves throwing the ball to Drake London as long as Drake London is able to finish the game without getting injured, which is something that often happens to him. It's frequently an issue. Last week was kind of the outlier in terms of Drake London. Four targets, only caught 3 of them, but it was also not a game script where the Falcons had to throw the football very much. I mean, they won 22-6. The Vikings pretty much from the jump showed that they were incapable of moving the football at all in that game. But you go and look at all of the other games that Michael Penix has been at quarterback with Drake London. Week 1, 15 targets for Drake London. Then you go back to last year. He finished the season with 18 targets against the Panthers, 13 targets against the Commanders, 8 targets against the Giants, 3 targets against the Raiders, but he hurt his shoulder catching a touchdown pass in that game. I remember I was very tilted for that DFS slate. He finished with
which he actually dropped.
Yeah.
They didn't count him.
No. That one counted, the one against the Raiders. He had 3 catches for 53 yards and a touchdown.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Drake London. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm talking about Drake London.
Against the Raiders?
Not this year. I'm going back to last year's games.
Oh, God. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then games before that, 10 targets, 16 targets, 7 targets, 13 targets. So in games that Drake London plays to completion with Michael Penix at quarterback, he's averaging like, I don't know. I'm just doing like quick math, like 12 and a half targets or something like that. So to answer your question, I don't think it's crazy at all to get yourself some leverage by going Drake London with Michael Penix as opposed to Bijan Robinson.
I don't either. I don't think a ton of people are going to want to do it. Or, you know what else you could just do here is go, and I'm not saying this is going to be super contrarian, but one of the plays that I'm almost certainly going to do is just like a Bijan plus London with no Michael Penix Jr. To me, that's one of my favorite builds. I understand it's probably going to be popular, but that's one of my favorite builds. I have no problem going to Kyle Pitts either. You know, you're getting a lot of usage out of Kyle Pitts. They went with a run-heavy approach last week, so I'm not really surprised that none of these guys were targeted heavily. But I do think Pitts is going to be better this year. If you were to just plug London and Bijan Robinson in without Michael Penix Jr., there's probably a lot we can do with that. There's a lot we can do with Dak stacks this week. There's a lot you can do with a bunch of these spots that I think people aren't going to get to. I'm not saying you want to get to Daniel Jones in this spot. Drake May against Pittsburgh, though, if all of they have 4 key players that might not play this week. So again, I'll be keeping a close watch on that. Sam Darnold's 5,100. I probably don't do that. But you know who else? Kyler Murray at 6,100. Kyler at 6,100 to me in this spot. He's 4-4 career against the 49ers. He either goes out there and plays remarkably well or they get their dicks kicked in. I would absolutely consider going to some Kyler stacks in this spot. They're only 1.5 point dogs. I kind of like them here.
So by the way, do you want to leave Bijan and Drake London in this lineup? Or
why not? Yeah, let's try it.
And then go like Murray to McBride.
Sure. You could even throw Harrison in there.
What does that do for salary? We're pretty tight now. All right. If we do just complete the lineup around these players, let's see. Is it too spendy? I forgot to select the rest of the games.
Okay. I hope it throws McCaffrey in there anyway.
I think it will, just because we have him projected so highly.
I think so too. And it should.
No, we didn't.
No.
We got Murray, Bijan, Jordan Mason, JSN, Drake London was already in the lineup, Marvin Harrison, Tyler Warren, and then the Jets defense. That's not terrible looking, though.
Not at all. 2 things I will say here, though. 1, that's actually a really sick lineup. 2, I think this probably looks better if you swap out Bijan for McCaffrey, and then we take Warren and those guys out and then run it again. I would be shocked if it doesn't. Okay, that's good. So if you took Bijan out, Greg, this may end up simming at like 150% if you swapped him out for McCaffrey.
You know what? He still showed up in the lineup. I thought that if I just ran the optimal.
That can't be right. Try it again. Wait, no, take McCaffrey out and see what happens. I don't know if that was a bug or if that was actually Bijan popping out. Okay, there we go. Run this now. This may
Murray
be $1.50.
Yeah, so I think the only thing that we got Fannin in the lineup instead of Warren, and then the Steelers defense instead of the Jets defense, and then McCaffrey instead of Bijan.
What do you think? Take a guess. Take a guess before looking. I'm saying 148.
80.
I really thought this would be better than that.
Let's see if we take...
If you take London out, and then who? Yeah, I guess just complete it, right? And take Fannin out.
Yeah, so if we take Fannin out, and
okay,
so we got.
Problem is, hold on. You have McBride locked into the flex.
No. He's just. It doesn't matter what spot he's in. It'll move him around.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I love these Kyler builds this week. I'm gonna have a lot. It's so cheap.
Yeah, this came out almost exact. I'm just gonna count this as a win for myself and say this is what I guessed before. It's not how it works, but I'm gonna take the win anyway.
Very fair. All right. Brian says Kyler never gets me to the ceiling I need from him. It does feel that way, but I still like him this week.
Want to take a look at the initial FanDuel projections too?
Let's do it. Yeah. And the reason really is I'm not convinced that this 49ers team doesn't have some real chinks in the armor right now. Even, defensively, that game, Rattler still put up 21 against them, and they did actually move the ball at times. But I think it's possible that this is just not the same 49ers defense that we've seen in previous seasons. And, maybe they begin to gel and all of that, but it's a divisional spot. And I think there may be some upside. Before we do it, real quickly, though, do you remember what the ownership was on Kyler that we were projecting for? It had to have been low, right?
It was like 5%.
That's pretty low.
Yeah, he's not expected to be popular.
Let's go. Well, let's do this. Quarterback. You're right. We have Jaden Daniels, but he's probably out.
Yeah. Yeah. That line is now, let's see.
FIFA. I agree. Kenneth Walker to me is sneaky this week. If JSN comes in super chalky, does Kenneth Walker end up being just that? In hindsight, you look back and you go, how did I not get to Kenneth Walker? This feels like a potential smash spot for Kenneth Walker. And I'm also willing to go Walker JSN without Sam Darnold. That to me could be a sick build in a week like this, where there's 7.5 point favorites at home.
Okay. By the way, I don't know if you saw, but we just started a channel in Slack for NFL projections where we could just drop any kind of injury news in there.
Yep. Awesome.
So what was the quarterback you wanted to go with?
Can we see what the prices here are on the Seattle players? We haven't really done much with Seattle, but this could be a great spot for them this week.
Yeah. So for
there's
Seattle,
a part of me that feels like the wheels could fall off New Orleans this week, Greg. And I know you have a lot of sharps out there that are like, you got to bet the Saints at plus 7.5. I get it. It's playing the number, but they couldn't, they faced the Cardinals and then a beat up San Francisco team. What happens now when you go into Seattle, against a really good defense? I'll say Seattle's defense, maybe not really good, but they're well above average. So I think they might just have the ball a lot. I wanted to look at JSN and Walker.
Yeah. So one thing I want to add here is that FanDuel has done an infinitely better job at pricing JSN than DraftKings. JSN's $8K over on FanDuel. That's correct. That's where he should be priced right now, in my opinion. To your point on Walker, though, or just wanted to see his price point, he is underpriced at $6,600 on FanDuel. I know that Charbonnet has gotten a lot of work, but Walker has been, just by some of the metrics like evasiveness, broken tackles, he's been really good so far this year. And I think that's going to win out over Charbonnet and just get him more of the work in the backfield than what we've seen from the split of the two of them going forward. So we do right now have Charbonnet projected better than Kenneth Walker. I don't think that's correct, though.
I don't either. So we don't need to throw him into the lineup. It's just not going to sim well with that. I personally agree with everything you and I disagree on a lot on this show. I could not agree more with that take. I mean, across the board, you're talking about a better actual running back. And Walker has 4 runs of 10 plus this year. You have none for Charbonnet. Charbonnet's a better pass catcher, but how many receptions does Zach Charbonnet have this year? Do you know?
Ooh, off the top of my head, I do not know.
0. He doesn't have any. He doesn't even have a target. What he does have is 15 rushing attempts for 10 yards last week. 15 for 10 yards. So you're telling me he outpaces Walker, who ended up having only 13 carries, but Walker goes for 105 yards with, I believe he had 4 runs of 10 plus against what should be a vaunted defensive line in Pittsburgh. I really think this could be the buy low spot on Kenneth Walker on DraftKings and on FanDuel.
Yep. I agree with that too, but I also agree, just based on what our projection is, he's not going to sim out well.
Let's just fade it.
Yeah.
We don't even have to go Darnold here either. I don't love Darnold in the stack. I'm more so like just theoretically right now, given that it's not showing up in the projections. I like and I think you agree, some JSN Walker builds without Darnold.
Yeah. Also just wanted to check Keenan Allen. He's relatively a little bit more expensive on FanDuel, although still not crazy priced, $600. So 6,000, not 600. So he is 9% owned on FanDuel, but not the same chalk that I think he's going to be on the DraftKings side of things. One thing we didn't do on DraftKings, I think we could do on FanDuel, while we talk more about the Bears side of the game, I think stacking the Cowboys makes a ton of sense as well, with Dak Prescott, Jake Ferguson, all the same guys we talked about as potential run backs on DraftKings. They make sense with Dak Prescott over on FanDuel, and DraftKings just with Prescott as the QB instead of Caleb.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it. Remember, Jalen Johnson's out for the Bears. That hurts them. They were already not looking great, which is amazing how great they looked through the first 3 quarters of that game in week 1. But then you might go, oh, well, maybe it's just JJ McCarthy making them look good, right? But like TJ Edwards is questionable. Jalen Johnson, doubtful, but from everything I've seen, he's going to miss multiple weeks. We don't know if Kyler Gordon's going to play. They could be in real trouble here. I'm with you. This is a fun stack. Now my question to you, before we run this and complete the lineup, we need to have some autonomy here, right? How do you, Mr. Greg Ehrenberg, want to make this different? Because this stack right here, guarantee that's a semi-chalky stack.
Yeah, so the first thing is playing DJ Moore instead of Odunze, but actually over on FanDuel, DJ Moore is actually projected to be slightly less popular. So that's one little point of leverage. But to your point, yeah, this isn't going to make all of a sudden for some sort of massive contrarian lineup. This is still pretty chalky. Let's see, is there a tight end that isn't all that popular that we could get different with? Oh, here's actually one that I don't hate. TJ Hawkinson at $5,800 with Carson Wentz at quarterback. I think that's one direction we could go to. Let's see, running back.
Let's see. Yeah,
here's one direction we could go at running back. Of the 4 pay-up options on FanDuel, Bijan, McCaffrey, Barkley, Taylor, I think Barkley is going to be the least popular of all 4. We talked about how popular Bijan and Christian McCaffrey are each individually going to potentially be. Jonathan Taylor's coming off just a monster game. I think that is going to drive some ownership. I think this is a spot where you could play Barkley and probably get pretty nominal ownership on him relative to the other pay-up running backs.
I wonder one thing. Does Barkley's performance against the Rams last season affect anything here this week?
I don't think so.
Can I tell you what his stats were?
It was the game he rushed for like 200. He had like 230 yards and a gazillion touchdowns.
Twice. He had 200 plus rushing yards and multiple touchdowns twice against the Rams last year. With like, he had 302 yards from scrimmage in the first game, which is just stupid.
It's just, where is it coming from though? Does it make Bijan less popular? McCaffrey? What was the poll numbers from before? I
guess I'm not saying that's the reason you do it. What I'm asking is, all right, so remember I was saying to you, I don't know if it was week 1 or week 2, whatever it was, that no, it was actually the JCM ownership. When we were talking about how it's actually very hard to project ownership when public sentiment overwhelmingly, contradicts what props would say, right? And like what the projections would say. How do you project for public sentiment? It's very difficult to do that. And we saw that JCM ownership come up. You see this with certain players. I think you're right, for what it's worth, that it probably doesn't happen with Saquon Barkley. But if you start seeing that narrative being pushed throughout the week, as we've seen with the JCMs and other players, that like, hey, Barkley had 2 games against them last year with 510 yards from scrimmage and 4 touchdowns with 450-plus yard rushing touchdowns or whatever it was. I do wonder if it skews it more than we think. I don't think it will, but I think it's possible. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, the only reason I would feel a little bit different is it's just, where is it coming from? We have 4 good options. We had that poll up earlier, and Barkley had the least votes of all 4. To your point, there probably aren't a lot of people on Wednesday who are thinking about the games he had last year. Maybe as more people are reminded of the stats and see it on social media, maybe that changes their thought process here. If it was to happen, then I'd be like, yeah, I'm just playing Bijan Robinson and Christian McCaffrey. I'm just kind of skeptical people are going to get off of them for Barkley, when the reality is you can't play all of them in your lineup.
Then I'm with you. I think we should get some Barkley.
Yeah, so we could go Barkley.
Barkley hasn't had a game yet either. He hasn't had that game yet, right? So, yeah.
I'm also kind of curious, what is AJ Brown's at 7K now? Where are you at on as an Eagles fan on AJ Brown at the moment?
I'm not surprised by any of this. It actually is very sensible. Like they play a methodical, boring game on offense unless they're not allowed to. What I mean is, if you're playing with a lead, right, or you're playing that type of game, and you can just move the ball at will, and on 3rd and short and 4th and short, third and short is 2nd down for the Eagles, right? 4th, in the sense that they're just going to go for it on 4th down. So they have all of these ways to just move the ball downfield. You're not going to go heavy AJ Brown or Devontae Smith unless you have to. I have no problem getting weird with spots like that, but this week where you have so much value and so many great plays, I don't really see the need to get there. Although the only other thing I will say, though, is the Rams have some injuries on defense. I would just ask you guys to pay attention to these, where you've got Witherspoon is out. He's on the IR. And Braden Fisk, who has been a big feature on that defensive line, him and Jared Verse, he is also questionable and may not play. So that would hurt this defense in a big way. Keep an eye on it. AJ Brown's fine, but I think he might still be a bit overpriced because the volume just isn't there, Greg.
Yeah. And it's not just the volume isn't there. To what you said before, the potential for fantasy points isn't even there beyond because the pass he's getting. So last week we heard the Eagles are going to prioritize getting AJ Brown in the game more early in the game, which I also thought was funny because it's like, well, if you want to get him to get the ball more early compared to last week, that is very easy to do. You throw him the ball once early.
One time, yeah.
So, right. So they did do it, but it was like, hey, we're throwing him 3 short slant passes early in the game. It's like, all right, even if he catches all of them, in hindsight, what was he going to do? If he caught all of his targets last week, he was going to have like 30 yards. There was no depth to the targets.
No, not at all. So, I can't say I'm in love with it. I want to throw one guy for those of you hanging out with us right now. I know it's been a bit of a long show, but there is one player I want to see what his price point is. And seeing that Josh Jacobs just brought it to my mind. Can you just check the price on Judkins on FanDuel? Because on DraftKings, he's 5,000 flat.
He is $5,600 on FanDuel.
All right. So I think that projection is low, very low. This is not a guy you play anywhere outside of trying to get insane in a couple of spots. But I mentioned this to Ben last week. I just want you to hear this, Greg, because to me, this signals something bigger. In my opinion, this guy missed like all the training camp and the preseason after those allegations, which have since been dropped. Mm-hmm. Or the charges, I believe, were dropped, right? Or got thrown out, whatever it may be. He's good. He's back. Mm-hmm. He comes back like a week before this game. He ends up playing. Check this out. 20 snaps. He only plays 20 snaps, Greg. He had 13 touches. 13 touches on 20 snaps for a guy that wasn't even with the team throughout the summer. I see that, and you know what? Maybe Kevin Stefanski just does something entirely different this week. But to me, it just screams, this is a guy that we're not going to, dip his toes slowly into the water. He's going head first. If you're giving him 13 touches in his first game after missing the entire summer with the team, if you don't do it this week, I get it. I hope he actually has a bad game because there may be a real opportunity to get to some Quinshon Judkins at a cheap price point.
So I don't think this is unreasonable to say. It's all very, very small sample sizes. He's been the most impressive rookie running back so far, just from what we've seen out of really small sample sizes.
And only one game for him, for what it's worth. But yeah.
For everybody, it's small sample sizes. But who's been more impressive than him who's done more as a rookie running back than 10 rushing attempts for 61 yards so far?
Yeah, not Hampton.
No.
Not Hampton. None of these guys. No. I mean,
certainly not Johnson on the Steelers.
No, that guy, they're not even letting him return kicks anymore because he screwed that up too. Like, it's crazy.
He got banned. He got banned from special teams.
Yeah. And how about this? Not Ashton Genty either. Now, Judkins might be like the man. And look, but you get what I'm saying, right? I'm not sitting here saying go out and jam Quinshon Judkins. What I'm saying is if a guy plays 20 snaps and missed all of the summer and the preseason, and it's like he might just not even be on the team, and now he has 13 touches on 20 snaps, that means that he was, this guy was involved. He touched the ball 65% of the time he was on the field. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm just looking through some of the rookie running backs, and it's like, of the guys who were drafted really highly, Travion Henderson, I bet the over on his rushing prop last week, and I got a lot of CLV on it because we heard from the Patriots, hey, we are going to mix up what we're doing in our backfield this week. I took that as, this seems like code. Travion Henderson's going to play more this week. Instead, it was like Antonio Gibson and Ramondre Stevenson played more, and Henderson was even less involved last week. And then I guess the other one, too, is Tootin looked pretty good last week after they traded away Tank Bigsby, but it was still ETN's backfield. But either way, like if I'm right now just saying like which running back has showed the most, this is no bearing on what they're going to be in the future, but just who has shown the most so far, it's Judkins.
I agree. I've been camp. Ramondre Stevenson is still the main guy. I hammered it in week 1. Like hammered. I even hammered most rushing yards in the game. And then, of course, I didn't bet it in week 2. And he just – because in week 1, I'm like, I'm a dummy, right? Even though him and Henderson didn't really each get much work because they were behind and they played terribly. And then in week 2, I just see Ramondre Stevenson catching like a 51-yard bomb. Oh, okay. Well, I was right just at the wrong time. Whatever. Anyway, let's fill this one out before we get out of here. And one more reminder to you guys, if you haven't done it, we got anybody that 25% off any NFL monthly or weekly package all the links. Greg was kind enough to make 4 individual links for you guys and drop them down below, which means you don't even have to use that promo code strategy25. It'll auto load it for you when you go to check out. So strategy25 there. If you wanted to just poke around and see what everything has, you can still go straight to Stokastic and then just use strategy25 at checkout too. Like, you can manually approach it that way. Absolutely. But this is one way to just go in there and avoid all of that other stuff if you want to use the tools. 25% off any monthly or weekly NFL package. And as someone mentioned earlier, yeah, the monthly is a better bang for your buck for sure, but check it out. And of course, Epic, $50, 100% deposit bonus match, sponsor of the show. Those guys are fantastic. They're building something awesome over there with peer-to-peer where you can't get limited, where you can be sharp and actually profit from it. And the payouts are way better. Odds won for 100% deposit bonus up to $50. All right, before we go, Greg, let's run this one and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, so I simmed it out while you were
showing. Look at that. Little big reveal.
Yeah, came out looking good. 99.1% sim ROI. So around the players we had locked in, Josh Jacobs was in the lineup, Tyler Warren, Jordan Mason, and then the Cardinals defense. And yeah, that was good for a 99.1% sim ROI.
I love it. It's a nice looking lineup. I love the double stack there. Barkley is the interesting one where I would simply be curious to see what happens, because I'm with you on Barkley, but I'd be curious to see what happens if you took Barkley out and put one of the high-priced running backs in, or just, you know what, just ran it like that. Let's just see.
Sure. Yeah. So if we,
for what it's worth, I agree with you. I agree with you that Barkley could be that play this week that people sleep on.
It's more or less the same lineup. The difference is, instead of Barkley, we got McCaffrey, and then the defense swapped to the Raiders defense. So it was just a 2v2 swap that ultimately looks, relatively similar. Let's see how the sim ends up coming up for this. Probably going to be a little bit higher just because we have McCaffrey projected higher than Barkley. But who knows? Maybe the ownership will, 84% sim ROI.
It came in higher with Barkley, and that was the only swap other than defense, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, we had, I don't even remember which defense it was in before, but it was just a defense that was slightly more expensive.
Okay. So the Sims, even though we haven't projected lower by a decent amount, the Sims do like that potential leverage with Barkley this week on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, anything before we go?
No, that's just about going to do it for us. One thing. If you guys follow my bankroll thread that I did for NBA last year, I'm starting it back up, but I'm doing it over on Tails. You can find it on tails.bet, tracking all the bets, posting everything. And I'm going to be posting bets for pretty much everything. Like, I'm going to match Ben in terms of weird things that I post, like overnight Korean tennis. That could be showing up on my Tails account. I've already got soccer bets there for this afternoon. I got baseball. I got NFL there. So go over to tails.bet, follow myself, follow Loughy. I'm going to be posting a lot of bets over there. I'll be tracking all the results. So yesterday was the first day of it, and had a pretty good day. It was plus nearly 8 units because I hit a plus 1,100 homer bet on Brett Beatty. So go follow me over there, and you're going to be getting bets for anything.
Yeah, here we go, right here. You guys should absolutely do it and just follow these spots. I got a bunch up as well. One thing I've been doing. What?
I don't know if you meant to screen share. You don't have it on screen.
I did. There we go. All right. Yeah, so you got them all right here. The links are down there, or just go to tails.bet. You can follow any of us, but it's easier down there. Very cool, man. Like, you can see I'm following Ben and Greg, and then you just scroll these, they all pop up. You can easily bet these spots. Look, you just click bet and it auto loads it straight into your bet slip. Very cool stuff. I've got, Greg, I got a bunch of NFL sides I've already posted. So come hang out, man. Turn on notifications and let's make it happen. This stuff is fun. I love it so much because, we have DFS, but where else can you find spots like this that we're able to do this together? You know what I mean? Here you go. Like the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills. That's a fun one. Minnesota Vikings. Yeah. Come hang out. Yo, follow us or just follow whoever you want. Check the platform out. It's a lot of fun, and we'll win some stuff together. We'll bet some stuff together. Hey, that's Greg Ehrenberg, and I'm Dave Loughran. We'll see you back here for the next one. Tomorrow, NFL Showdown Strategy Show. Friday, we got the Sim Strategy Show with updated projections and all of that good stuff. And you've got MLB still going strong tonight. Josh, right now, head over there and check him out on the Strategy Show live before lock later tonight. And we will see you back here for the next one. Bye-bye.